Hello, everyone. It is the day after Christmas, 2018. I hope everybody had a beautiful one. I spent yesterday with my brother Michael and his wife, and my sister Diane and her husband, and then my brother Michael's wife's son, or so his stepson. It was a good day. Hello, Cheryl and Joyce and Carrie. Thanks for everybody for tuning in. I guess the day after, what is it? The day after Christmas is considered like the big return day. I'm wondering if any of you did that. Hello, Heather and Jasmine, Cherie, Angel, Kelly, Tammy. How's everybody doing this evening? Because there's what? There is Black Friday, which is the day after Thanksgiving when everybody goes shopping and all those deals are out there. And then there is what? Cyber Monday, which is the Monday after Black Friday. And then I guess this is Return Wednesday, when people return things that they got for Christmas that they don't like, that didn't fit. Maybe they already had one. I just stayed at home today. Jamie, what's going on? Heather, Tammy, Laura, Carrie, great to see all of you. Cherie says I'd never go to the store with all those people. Me neither. I like to do most of my shopping online, and I guess that's why a lot of these brick and mortar places are boarding up and malls are going out of business and things like that. I guess I'm one of the reasons that is happening, but still millions and millions of people still shop the old-fashioned way, and I think a lot of them did go back to the stores today, and I hope they got what they wanted this time. Katrina, thank you. I hope you had a wonderful Christmas too, Katrina. So I have an interesting show for you tonight. First and foremost, I want to remind all of you that this is going to be the last show that you will be able to watch on Facebook. This time next Wednesday, which will be the day after New Year's, January 2nd, this show will be coming to you from YouTube. And I still have yet to try that out. Been a little busy, but I'm going to be doing a run through and make sure that I understand how everything works before next Wednesday night gets here. I will be sure to post the link to my YouTube site, and if there are any directions that I need to post, you will be able to find them either in the discussion group or on the Facebook page. And I probably will send out an email to everybody that's on the email list of a reminder as well. That's probably a good idea that I do that too. Linda and Barb and Marcus, thanks for everybody for joining in tonight. I know everybody's a little busy. It's the holiday season. A lot of you have off of work, have off of school. I'm going to guess that some of you are teachers and you don't have to go back until after New Year. Some of you have a lot of things to do, so I'm happy that you're tuning in tonight for this live show. And once again, this is the last show that will be on Facebook. Hello, Michelle. I'm doing this for a variety of reasons. If you're not familiar, I've talked about this before, but if you're not familiar, why I'm doing this is that, first of all, the only way people can watch this live show on Facebook is if they have a Facebook account. And a lot of listeners don't. A lot of people don't. So that keeps some people from being able to tune in if they're interested. And I would never expect somebody to get a Facebook account just to tune into this show live. I think that's a little bit much for me to expect. However, on YouTube, anybody can watch. You go, I give you the link. You don't have to log in. You don't have to do anything. It's just go right to it, and you can watch. So I think that will bring in more viewers to this program, to this show, this live show on Wednesday nights. Also, this show ends up on YouTube anyway. And this will save me some time. This will just take the middleman, which is now Facebook, out of the picture. So automatically, as soon as the live show is done on YouTube, it will be available. I don't have to download it from Facebook and then upload it to YouTube. So it'll be a little more efficient for me. Also, I think that YouTube is a little more user-friendly. Facebook can be a little wonky for people to figure out how to watch, and I still have people who are trying to tune into the show on Wednesday nights and can't figure out how to do it. I think that YouTube will make it that easier as well. On top of that, a lot of people go to YouTube and watch videos anyway, so I'm hoping that that will just carry over to watching the live show. So there you go. So a lot of different reasons that I'm moving from Facebook. It's been what? We started this in October of last year, October 2017. So it's run its course on Facebook. And the show's grown. I'm very happy with it. I love to interact with all of you. And so to use a horrible cliche, we're just going to take it to the next level on YouTube. Tammy says she's relaxing and watching the snow come down in Denver. No snow here, Tammy, just cold. I wish it was snowing. I really do, but it's not snowing here in Pennsylvania. And so there you go. That's why we're moving to YouTube. Let's talk a little bit about the poll that was posted for the Ashley Summers episode. And I think this one is one of those ones where everybody pretty much agreed that if somebody in Ashley's family caused her to disappear, then more than one person knows. And in that episode, we talked about her Uncle Kevin, her great Uncle Kevin, and then his brother Keith, and his wife Renee. And so some of their statements didn't quite make sense. And so the question was very simple. Do more than one person in the Summers family know what happened to Ashley? And I think it was a unanimous yes. I don't think anybody answered no. I think it was a unanimous yes. I wish I would have created a little better question. I'm usually, when I'm creating those questions, I try to make it so you guys really have to think about it. I'd like it a little more closer to 50%. I don't like these unanimous answers, because I do try to make it hard on you, but obviously this time it seems everybody was on the same page. So maybe the question was a little too easy. I'll have to think about that for this Friday. Karen says, are you going to generate some dollars on YouTube with the occasional advertisement? You should. Karen, you should know that currently my account on YouTube is being reviewed for money-making opportunities on there. There's a process that you have to go through to get something like approved. My account fulfills all the criteria, but it has not been approved yet. My understanding is it usually takes a while for whatever reason. And so I'm still waiting on that, and we'll see if that'll happen. Karen, the thing about YouTube is to make any money on there as far as advertising, you have to have a lot of viewers. And a lot more viewers than I think that this show is going to get right now. So I don't know. I'm getting it approved. What may help is that I have so many videos posted on there, and I haven't been able to post any because I've been here in Pennsylvania. But it's certainly a thought, Karen, and I'm going through the process of setting that up. But it's just a little bit right out of my hands right at this point. But I thank you for asking me that question. And what's going on? Good to see you. I'd be interested to hear about any of you got anything interesting, maybe something out of the ordinary that you got for Christmas. Of course, keep it PG, please. Might be interesting to maybe that can generate some discussion. For myself, I actually bought myself a couple new Iron Maiden, the group, heavy metal group, my favorite band, a couple new heavy metal shirts from them that are being shipped to Florida right now. And I also bought 2 tickets to the concert that they're going to have in Florida in July 2019. They're going to be coming to tour North America, and their first show will be in Florida, and I will be there. I'm hoping that one of my best friends of all time, Doug, can come down from North Carolina and join me. He's never seen Iron Maiden before, so I'm hoping he comes down and we'll go to the show together. That would be really cool. We'll see if we can make that happen. So that's what I bought for myself for Christmas. So hello, Susie. How are you? Hi, right back at you. So that was that. As you can see, I'm still here in Pennsylvania. I'm going to be here for at least a couple more weeks. There are still some things that I need to take care of regarding my mother's passing and paperwork and things like that to take care of. And I will be here until all that gets sorted out. And that's going to be at least a couple more weeks. As you can tell here in the background, I am in my room at now it's just my dad's place here in Pennsylvania, in Renfrew, Pennsylvania. So anybody has any questions? Sherry, how are you doing tonight? Favorite Iron Maiden song, Marcus? You know, I think that my favorite song is The Wicker Man, which is an album, the first album after Bruce Dickinson and Adrian Smith came back to the band. That album was, what was it? A Brave New World, I think. And it came out in 2000. And there's a song on there called The Wicker Man, which is also the name of a British horror film from about 1973. I think that is my favorite Iron Maiden song. And I'm really excited because that is not a song that they usually play live at their concerts, but they are playing it on their upcoming tour. So I'm really looking forward to that. That's one they're pulling out to play. And so that's my favorite song. So anybody that doesn't know the song, you can go and find it on Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, wherever. It's called The Wicker Man. It was on, I think, Brave New World from the year 2000. Let me check that for a second to see that I'm... Wicker Man. Yep, Brave New World. I was right. See, I know my Iron Maiden stuff. So there you go, Marcus. The Wicker Man. Look it up. My kids got me an Echo Dot. I have no idea how to make it work. That's funny, Tammy. Michelle says, I am shocked. I got so many presents. Favorite so far is a pair of black and brown riding boots. So horse riding, Michelle? Hello. Sherry. Hey, Sherry, what's going on? Penny, thank you. Regarding my mother, I deeply appreciate that. Thank you. But that's my favorite song. And as far as interviews in the next couple weeks, you know, I'm thinking that, of course, we have an episode this Friday that I'm going to be talking about before this show is over. And, next Friday is a little up in the air. You know, with my mother passing away, it kind of put me behind. And, you know, like last year, I had interviews done before the holidays. Obviously, it's hard to get people to want to talk about what we talk about on Found during the holidays. It's a very, very difficult time. And so I wasn't able to work ahead like I usually do for a holiday this year for obvious reasons. So I'm hoping next Friday there's going to be an episode. I think that I'm going to be able to get an interview done, but it's totally up to the guest. We've thrown around a couple times that we might be able to get together and do that before next Friday, but I just don't know. I really don't know right at this second. I wasn't able to work ahead, and I understand that Christmas time, New Year's, family getting together, this is probably the time of the year that's most difficult to talk about a missing loved one. So there's that. Eric says she got a really fancy pair of fabric scissors. Okay. Kate, how are you? Thanks for tuning in tonight. Tammy says Iron Maiden would be awesome to see. I'm very pumped up about it, Tammy. Great band, great guys, very good guys in that band. Shelly, thanks for tuning in tonight. Yeah, better late than ever, Shelly. Good to see you. Michelle says they are for horse riding, but mine are for style. Okay, Michelle. Gotcha. Tammy says Metallica is my fave and Pantera was awesome. You know, I like some Metallica songs, Tammy, but I wouldn't say I'm a huge fan of the band, and I'm not really into Pantera at all. I've listened to the stuff, just can't get into it. I don't know. Katrina says, I would love to see Kiss next year on their last and final tour. Hey, Katrina, don't worry. It's probably not going to be their last and final tour, knowing them. But I have seen Kiss back in 2014. It was excellent. I saw them with Def Leppard. It was a really good show. Joyce says, Janis Joplin is one sound I love. Listened 4 hours or 5 days ago. Okay, Joyce. Not a huge Janis Joplin fan. Not probably heavy enough for me. Thank you, Kate. I appreciate it. So, also besides the interviews and trying to get back in the swing of things, Penny says Metallica is better with some bourbon. That's funny. You know, I'm a little behind on the books, a little behind on shirts for guests. I have a lot of work to do. You know, just to be very honest with you, I have a lot of work to do, and got a lot of stuff to do once I get back to Florida. A lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. People aren't going to probably see me for weeks. It's probably the way it's going to go. So that's my intro tonight. Just want to tell you about everything that is going on. Once again, if you have any questions, and Marcus, that was a really good question about Iron Maiden. Thank you. Thank you for including that. Let's get, I know somebody asked me a question in the group before we got started here. Emily asked me, what's your most memorable favorite Christmas gift? You know, Emily, I don't know if you're in here or not, but I'm going to answer for you. Probably my favorite gift is probably my Glock 19 that I got Christmas 2015 into early 2016. I got that as a gift. My parents bought it for me back then. Maybe some of you know that I posted a video of me going to shooting this past weekend with my dad and my brother Michael. We all happen to have the same gun. My gun is the older model. They have the newer model. Mine's a Generation 3. Theirs are Generation 4s. They're virtually the same. But that was probably my favorite. You know, I can't go back to thinking back. I know I got Atari 2600 way back in like 1982, which is pretty cool. But that's probably it. Probably my Glock 19 you know, it's a great gun. Glocks are known, you know, I'm sorry for people who aren't gun people, but that's probably my most favorite recent gift. And I use it. Obviously, I go and shoot. I carry it with me. I take it with me everywhere. So it's a very useful tool. And in this business I do, I feel like I have to carry a gun, just to be honest. Cherie says, I got a 357. Oh, did you, Cherie? Did you? I guess I'm going to say, I guess that's a revolver, right? Yeah, the Glock 19 that I have is 9mm semi-automatic. I'm here. What an awesome gift. Okay, Emily, you're here. Great. Thank you. I would say that's it. You know, that's the first thing that comes to mind, Emily. I've gotten a lot of great things in my life. I'm very, very lucky. I've gotten a couple laptops as gifts over the years. You know, back in my drag racing days, I got some car stuff and everything. That's going back to early 90s. So, but that's the one that comes to mind probably fastest, Emily. Heather says she has a purple 9mm. That's awesome. Mine's black. And yeah, Cherie, Texas girls. Paula says best gift was an LTC class. Okay. Penny says she has a Taurus 38. We're going to start talking about guns now. And Penny says Moss Burger Persuader 12 gauge shotgun. Nice, Penny. That's nice. That's nice. I like it. But Emily, you also asked me, what holiday song would you gladly pay money to never hear again? That's very easy. The 12 Days of Christmas. And what are your 2019 resolutions goals? You know, I'm going to answer that a little later, Emily, because somebody else asked me kind of the same question. Becky asked me that, and we'll do that a little later. So let's get into the questions. No, Marcus, I'm not a hunter at all. No, I've never shot an animal, never went hunting. My mother's side of my family are huge hunters. I have never even thought about it. I'm not into that at all. No. Hannah, what's going on? What's going on? And Claudia. Business, I've already talked about the books, T-shirts, Patreon and PayPal. Patreon has been great the last few weeks, people signing up. I deeply appreciate it, even though I haven't been talking about it much. So I appreciate that. And once again, the books, the playing cards, Patreon and PayPal. You all are so generous. I deeply, deeply appreciate everything that you've contributed to Unfound this year. Cheryl says, I have my late husband's AK-47, which he named Boris. Yeah, I'm not a big AK fan, Cheryl, but I will tell you, be honest, probably I'm going to be purchasing probably an AR-15 probably within the next couple months. Not to give too much away. And when I do, I'll post a picture of it and me shooting it. So let's get to the news. We need to talk about Kelsey Barrett. This was this flight instructor who, we've talked about her, I guess, the last few weeks. Although her body has not been found, her fiance, his name is Patrick Frazee, F-R-A-Z-E-E, is in custody. And I guess this is kind of what many of you predicted. I predicted. I guess you could say it's somewhat predictable. It's somewhat predictable. Now, I don't know, I don't know any more about this than any of you do, but it seems that they don't know right at the second. Well, there's no public information as to why our phone did ping 700 miles away. I have no idea yet. I don't know if anybody knows. But they're inclined to believe that there's evidence that he did something to her for whatever reason, whatever stupid reason, of course, horrible, horrible reason, and that she is not with us anymore. And so there's that. And I think that was something that a lot of us had been predicting. So if you didn't know that, that's what has transpired within the last week. That Kelly Barrett, you remember this woman who disappeared. She's a flight instructor. It was she vanished on Thanksgiving Day, and they're pretty sure they know what happened to her now, that her fiance, the father of her child, did something to her. Michelle asked, do we have any updates on Ashley's uncle's arrest? Not Michelle, it's funny you asked that, because I know that Ashley's ex-grandmother, my guest for last week's episode, Linda, is in here. So Linda, if you are in here, and maybe you can answer that question for yourself, because I know that you're in here, Linda. Michelle is asking, do you have any updates on Ashley's uncle's arrest? Linda, if you have anything that you could post publicly, please do. No, Lou, you don't have to stand in the corner. I'm not going to make you do that because you're late. That's not how we are now. Don't feel bad. Dee Dee, what's going on? Good. Yeah, Tammy, terribly sad about Kelsey Barrett. I agree. It's bad. And Shelly says, I still can't figure out why people do not just break up and divorce. I don't know. Lou says, I just read they found the phone in Idaho. I'm wondering how it got there, Lou. That'll be an interesting story. And Betty, welcome. Welcome. But Linda, once again, I know that I saw you come in here tonight. If you could answer Michelle's question, if there are any updates regarding Kevin Donathan and him being in custody or out on bail, wherever he is now. You know, if you can answer that question for Michelle and everybody else, I'd deeply appreciate it, because I don't have any updated information, but maybe you do, Linda. So there you go. This next article is interesting. It's not going to be a case, but I found this online. I think that it was at a site called purewow.com. It's PUREWOW, purewow.com. And it's an article about why is true crime so popular with women. It caught my eye, and I said, you know what? I got to talk about this. I want to see what all of you, and of course, as I'm looking down here, you know, most of the people that tune in to these shows on Wednesday nights are women, and it's not because of just of Unfound. I know overall that all true crime podcasts have way more women than men, and in fact, I know just from, you know, market research that I've seen, you know, that I know through Facebook, my demographics on Facebook, that 80% of Unfound's listeners are women. And so why is that? What is it about, let's see if I can get this thing to work. What's going on here? What is it about true crime that causes it to be so much more popular with women than men? And I will tell you, that when I first start, I mean, I've been into true crime for a long time, even before it was called true crime. And I would have never guessed that the demographics on this part of our culture, not just in the United States, but in the world, is skewed in such a way. I would think that it was more 50-50, but it's not. And, you know, what is it about me as a guy that is more like, I guess, taking an interest like all of you women do, that maybe makes me different than other guys who don't take interest in true crime at all? I don't know what that is. From a guy's point of view, I don't know what that is. I'm sure that being that, you know, I'm a person, I'm a guy, a human who believes that women and men are different. We have different likes and dislikes. We have a lot of same things, but we look at things differently. Makes sense. So I'm guessing that the reason that I got into true crime before it was called true crime is different than the reasons that all of you women got in. Maybe some of you are like I am, but I'm going to guess a lot of you aren't. You have your own motivations that are different from mine, and I think that that's great. Linda, thank you for answering that. Linda is saying that Kevin is out on bail regarding the charges brought against him, the uncle, the great uncle of Ashley Summers. Yeah, that's not good news. Lou says, to answer my question, Lou says regarding true crime, I think women are more intuitive. Tammy says because we experience it and we're empathetic. Katrina says, I try to watch crime specials to know more about the creeps out there and to learn what to look for in this crazy world. There are women who are writing love letters to Chris Watts, the guy that killed his family in Colorado. You know, Lou is asking me what my reason is. You know, I love information, Lou. I love mysteries, and I love getting information on them. And I think that that is indicative of how I run Unfound, that it's an information program. We're trying to find new information. We're not theorizing on the information that's already out there. I ask questions to get more information to the public. So I think that that's my motivation. You know, if there's a mystery out there, I want to hear as many facts, what we believe to be facts, as much about that mystery as I can. And like many of you over the years, I had my kind of pet cases before I started Unfound. And I think that Jody Husentrut is one of my pet cases going back several years, and that's why I talk about it. So, that's my motivation, because I take an interest in mysteries, and I'd like to be able to solve them. I think that that's always been meant. Now, obviously, a lot of guys, a majority of guys, are not like me. But you should also know, though, I'm very different than most guys. I don't play fantasy football. I've never done it. I take an interest in sports. Used to be an athlete, kind of still an athlete, kind of. But I don't play fantasy football like most guys do. What other guys into? A lot of those things that you tend to think that are more guy things than women things. I'm not into. Just, I don't know. Just there's a lot of things that guys take an interest in that I don't. Like MMA fighting, can't watch it. Now, there are a lot of things that guys take an interest that I do. Cars, working on cars, love it. Watching sports, other kinds of sports, love it. But a lot of things that guys are generally into, I'm just not. I don't know why that is. So maybe it shouldn't be surprising that I'm kind of that 20% of men in that true crime demographic that do get into true crime. 80%. The rest 80% do not, just not into it. Sue says, I think a lot of women want to fix people and want to know what makes people tick. Cherie says, because we are usually the victim, and therefore it's a learning process, things to look out for, things to pay attention to. Plus, women are very good at detective work, not that men aren't. Penny says her interest in true crime started with Ann Rule's The Stranger Beside Me. That's interesting. Penny says, I just found True Crime Podcast this past October. Well, Penny, welcome. Welcome. Lou says, I do too. I binge watch Forensic Files. My mother was the same way, Lou. She loved the show Forensic Files. I'm not sure this is a female/male thing. I should have become an investigator. Well, Lou, you still can. You still can. Whether it's a professional one, now that may be something different. But if you're looking into things and trying to figure things out, then you already are an investigator, Lou. Sue, yes, the mystery and trying to understand is also one of my reasons for being interested in all sorts of true crime, Sue says. Carrie, welcome tonight. Carrie, we are talking about why way more women than men are into true crime, just not just podcasts, but TV shows, books, maybe movies, things like that. Katrina says, women need to know this isn't a crime romance novel or LMN movie. It's the real deal. That's interesting. Okay. So, but there are some quotes, and once again, I'm probably going to post this article after I'm done. But there was a quote from this article that I want to read to you. It says, we think women are inherently more predisposed to examining a threat in order to understand and avoid it. It's rewarding to not only bring a perpetrator to justice at the end of the story, but also to look him in the eyes metaphorically and examine the hows and whys of the case. This was the writer of this article interviewed a woman who is interested, and this was the answer that one woman gave. I thought it's a huge article, but I just took out a couple sections of it. There was another quote from the article that says, I feel like knowing some of the situations that unfortunately people find themselves in makes me more aware. And I think that that's something a couple of you said about being more aware of your surroundings, because a lot of the victims are women. For instance, don't get in a car with a stranger. This woman says, I can be overtly trusting. So knowing the possibilities of what could happen makes me feel more secure. Carrie says, girls are more nosy by nature, want all the details. I see, Carrie. I see. Okay, then that's funny. Okay. So some of the other things that were said in the article, although I did not print them out as a quote, a couple women said that it's a coping mechanism, that a way to displace aggression and also a way to educate themselves. And I think the example that went along with this is that, men, women can be aggressive too. Women have aggression, they get ticked at people, etc. But, with men, at least in Western culture, that, it seems like we have more outlets for those types of things. Okay? Could play football. We can get into boxing. I'm not saying women don't box. We know there are female MMA fighters, etc. But according to this article, and this is women talking, not myself, this is coming from the article, some women says that it's a coping mechanism, that reading about it, taking an interest in it, watching out for themselves, kind of knowing about this stuff empowers them. And it's a great way for them to feel less afraid, and so they can be more confident in themselves. That's what was said in this article, which I think is a very, very interesting point of view, and it's something, of course, that I fully support. But let's, and let me read a couple of these things. Lynette says, do you think women are more patient and want to see the details? I don't know. No. Now, see, I will tell you, my dad, he doesn't really take an interest in true crime at all, whereas my mother did. So my dad is more like those 80% of guys, and I'm more like the 20% of guys. Don't know why that is. But do I think women are more patient and want to see the details? Maybe. I know a lot of guys can be detail-oriented too. So I don't know. Carrie says, I got super interested when Angela Hammond disappeared from my area when I was in high school. And that could be a factor too. If women do go missing, that, I think that more women are going to be interested. Whereas I think when a guy goes missing, a lot of guys are just like, well, that's life. There may be kind of a sympathy, empathy, being able to identify with another person's pain that I think, frankly, women are better at than men are, just to be honest. So I think that may be a possibility as well. I think that maybe guys, because we know that, there's other guys out there that, we have to watch ourselves, and whether we get our butts kicked and things like that, that if some guy disappears, it's like, well, sometimes that's just the way it worked. Some guy probably did something to him, and there you go. Women, I think, probably can empathize more. And it hits them in their emotions for like disappearances in particular than it does for guys. I think there's something to be said about that. Yeah. Penny says her uncle was murdered, neighbor murdered, domestic violence survivor, former prosecutor office employee. It's her life. Okay, Penny. I totally understand. I get that. Cherie says, when a woman hears a child disappear, it hits home. I got interested when my child was the same age as Madeleine McCann. I had so much empathy for her mother. See, I think I think we're on to something there. The big difference maybe between your stereotypical man and your stereotypical woman. That just think about these things differently, and hence the percentages are so different. And I even have it written down. Hello, Penny. Good to see another Penny in here tonight. And I even have that from the other perspective. What keeps men away? Why isn't it popular with them? I really didn't realize the demographics of true crime until I started doing Unfound. So it may be that empathy, sympathy thing that maybe we've hit upon here that is a big decider. And that, although I know that Unfound does have a lot of male listeners, but you female listeners dwarf them. That's true. Erica says, I got into true crime missing persons in 1982 with the Johnny Gosch case. That's a case I'm familiar with. Sure. I lived in Iowa and was just 2 years older than him. Katrina says, men are more interested in Westerns or action movies. Same scenario. That very well could be, Katrina. It's just different. Paula says, your podcast appeals to me because of the guest telling the story, not a reporter. You do a great job letting them share the story. I appreciate that, Paula. Thank you. Thank you. And once again, I think that the way I approach true crime up until Unfound got started is kind of the way I conduct the program. And I think I've said a long time ago that Unfound is a representation of me and the way I think about these things. And it's all about information. It's not about sensationalism or drama or theorizing and things. When I was on the other side, like all of you are, it was all just about where can I get more information. And so I've tried to take that into Unfound. So there you go. But I'm going to post, I thought you might find that interesting because I know most of the listeners are women, and I know a lot of women tune in here on Wednesday nights. And so I thought that might be interesting to talk about. And why so many more women than men are interested in true crime. And I really appreciate all of the opinions that you've given. I have to say, maybe there's one other thing when it comes to men. A lot of men may stay away from true crime because they know that many more men than women commit crimes. And they don't like hearing about their own gender getting in trouble so much. I think that's also a possibility. I don't particularly mind it. I don't take it personally if some other guy commits a crime, but there could be guys out there who do take it that way. And that's the way their egos are. That's how they think about being a man. It's just like it can't be even another man is doing something bad. That could be something too. That could be. Michelle says, I think men may feel too out of control in this area. Men like to know they can help. That could be. Michelle says they like to know they can protect someone. Yes. And it maybe does. It may be for some men, if they hear about women who are disappearing or getting murdered, it makes them feel bad. It makes them feel weak. That's possible too. A lot of great thoughts here. Very nice. Good. But Erica says men are fixers. So many of these cases are sadly never fixed. That's possible. Good stuff. Good answers. I'm going to post the article, and then all of you can read it, and you can continue discussing it in the group. Let me continue this. Emily had asked me, and I'm going to combine Emily's question with Becky's question. What are your hopes for Unfound and you personally for 2019? Emily asked me, what are your 2019 resolutions and goals? 2018 for Unfound was great. Okay. My estimate is that Unfound's listenership grew by about 40% this year. And it's ecstatic. It's great. Fantastic. But in my personal life was probably the worst year on record. Of course, with my mother passing away just about a month ago, that of course. But I also lost my biological mother, the woman who birthed me back on August 1st, 1970. She died in March of this year. And then on top of that, my best friends, the Care Stories, Doug, Brad, and Todd, they lost their mother, a woman who I was very close with because they're my best friends. Spent a lot of time in their house growing up. She died in July. So on a personal level, from a family and friends level, 2018 was a very, very difficult year. Okay, so for 2019, as far as Unfound goes, I hope it just continues. I hope the audience grows by another 40%. That would be spectacular. And I'm going to do everything in my power to make that happen. One of the main concentrations for Unfound in 2019 is continuing to spread the word about the missing persons case community as a whole. Not necessarily a particular case or anything, but what is going on in missing persons cases in the United States? How do we make that situation in law enforcement better? And the main concentration in 2019 is going to speak to, on college campuses, to criminal justice majors. I'm going to try very hard in 2019 to do that. Okay? On top of the books and other things that I'm already doing, that is going to be added in 2019. We're going to try to make that happen. Going to schools, universities that have criminal justice majors, going in and at least talking to them for a day or for a class, maybe 2 hours, whatever it is, about missing persons cases, what's going on with them, why aren't they getting solved, what are the problems, what are the mistakes that police continue to make, why isn't the number of missing people going down, like violent crime is continuing to go down, why isn't that happening, and try to educate these young men and women before they go out and become police officers, before they work for the FBI, before they work for the Secret Service, before they become maybe a mayor of their town or a council member of a town or city where a disappearance happens. I think that's important. That's the only way we're going to change this, is start with young people. Because you try to start with this 20-year veteran cops, no offense to them, but really they don't want to listen to a guy that's just been doing this for 2 hours and some month, 2 years and some months. But I think young people, they know what podcasting is. They're going to hear about how I've covered over 100 cases. They're going to hear about all of the cases that we've been able to move forward, all of the people that I've talked to, all of the connections that I've made with help from you and people who assist me with the program. And I think there'll be a lot of professors and things who will be very open for me coming in with my experience and talking to them. Okay, so that is going to be the real big goal, on top of doing the regular episodes, trying to get some of these ones solved, building an audience, getting more books in the hands of people, getting these cases out there that we've already covered. In 2019, it's going to be me going and speaking at places. And I'm good at that. I don't get stage fright or anything like that. As long as I'm prepared, I can go talk anywhere. I don't get that. I don't get stage fright. So that's my goal for Unfound. On a personal level, I just want 2019 to be better in 2018. It would be hard to imagine 2019 realistically being worse than 2018 as far as what has gone on in my personal life. Like I said, with my two mothers and my friends losing their mother, it's been a really crappy year for that. It really has. Business-wise, very good. Personally, not so good. So the goal in 2019 in my personal life is to make it better than 2018. And then for Unfound, it's just to keep the audience being built and then adding in the speaking stuff. That's where we're going. That's what the goal is. Hello, Barbara. Carrie says, wow, that's amazing. Great job, Unfound team, 40%. Yeah, it's great. Carrie, 40% is spectacular. I could have never guessed that was going to happen in this year. Yeah, Penny, it was a hard year. Tammy, I have lost a lot of female spirits this year. That's true. It's true. I could have never probably predicted that at the beginning of the year, but that's the way this year went. It sucked. It just sucked. There is no other word. I don't swear on this show, so I have to just keep it kind of PG-13. It sucked. It's just bad. Thank you, Michelle. Linda, I know you gave me a compliment up here earlier. As a guest, I appreciate your style and everything. Linda, it's very kind. Thank you. And I know you've done a lot of interviews, Linda, so I know that really means something coming from you. Thank you. Linda also says that would be great. I've met so many families and stories I could share where the beginnings of the case were botched and nothing was done. I'd be happy to share. Penny says, oh gosh, anxiety attack for me. I'm going to guess you're talking about public speaking, Penny. You know, with my acting background and improv comedy, some training I got when I was doing that in the early 2000s, you get over public speaking fears fairly quickly. It's a kind of experience that most people do not have. They don't. So don't feel bad, Penny. Don't feel bad about that. Pamela, I think they are still with me. I think all of these women who are very close to me are still with me, and I appreciate that. I think they are. And I am a person who believes in those types of things. I don't talk too much about God and all those things on the program because I know we have a lot of people from a lot of different faiths and beliefs and everything. But in my value system, my belief system, yes, I think that my mother and all these women are around me somewhere. Thank you. Thank you. So that's my goals for 2019. Just gonna, keep being me. I need to get back to working out a little bit more, and there's some other things, but from a personal standpoint, professional standpoint, those are probably the main things. And being, on top of everything else, being a good son to my dad who is still with me. That's a major goal for 2019 as well. One more thing I want to talk about, and this kind of goes along with the speaking engagements that I hope to do in 2019, because I know it's going to come up. I just want to talk a little bit about the Smiley Face Killer discussion. I had an opportunity to speak with a listener, Jill, who is a counselor. We were going to have this discussion way back in November, but my mother got sick and I just couldn't find the time. But I was very fortunate to talk to Jill just a few days ago. And we got talking about drinking and drugs and addictions and things like that, and young people being out and then them ending up in bodies of water. It was a very interesting discussion. I deeply appreciate Jill spending time with me. I'm going to guess we talked for about an hour. And she offered a lot of insight, which she has learned talking to a lot of people and what she does about this. Because as you know, in my opinion, this whole phenomenon of young people, mostly men, ending up in bodies of water, and because it's some secret conspiracy of people driving around at night, unfortunately, I think that is a huge dumbed down theory that makes no sense and is actually hurtful to us actually trying to figure out what is going on with these young people and what is happening to them. Why are they doing these things? Okay? As long as we believe it's some conspiracy and the evil is out there somewhere driving around in a van at 3 a.m, we're never going to take a close look at just what is going on inside these people's hearts and their minds. Okay? And I think that's why I hate this particular conspiracy and the thinking behind it and all the people who push this forward. That's why I hate it so much. Because we're dumbing it down, and we are not, in my opinion, we are not looking at these people these young people who maybe have drinking problems and getting to know them and trying to figure out what is going through their heads. We don't want these young people to end up in bodies of water dead. The only way to find that out is to talk to them and to figure out what is going on with them. Do we have to do something about underage drinking? What's the solution? What is going on here? Katrina says, happening in Austin, a lot of bodies being found in the water. Yeah. But here was some of the major points that I got out of talking to Jill. And once again, I don't know if she sometimes tunes in here on Wednesday nights. I don't know if she's here tonight. Some of the major points in talking to Jill. It's easier for the public to embrace an overall theory than a series of theories, meaning every person ended up in the water for different reasons. That's hard to explain to the public. I think that the reason that the Smiley Face Killer thing is still going on 10 years later is because it's easier for people to understand one overall theory than try to look at every individual who ended up being found in a body of water dead and try to take a look at their life and what was going on. Okay, I think it's hard for the public to do that. And that's why I call the Smiley Face a dumbed down theory that doesn't fit every circumstance. If it's a theory that doesn't fit every circumstance, then it's not a theory, it's just guessing. It's just an opinion. Well, I'm looking for theories that can be turned into laws. That's what I try to do in Unfound. And Michelle says, agree, there is something going on with the younger generation. So that was one thing that came out of my discussion with Jill. The reason that people want to believe the Smiley Face Killer theory instead of these young people doing it themselves is because simply I think the public just doesn't want to take a deeper look at this. It's easier to believe something conspiratorial than get into really understanding what makes people tick. But it's only understanding what makes people tick and what's going on in these people's lives that we can get these numbers to go down. On top of the fact that believing that a group of people 10 years after the Smiley Face theory came out, that the police are still fumbling around and can't catch these people, how does it make the police look? Another point, we don't know what's going on in people's lives. On Unfound, you find out things about victims that you don't hear anywhere else. Families aren't usually open to broadcasting everything. Example, sometimes the parents don't want the public to know that their daughter was a prostitute. That happens. They don't want to talk about it because then they fear that the public is going to say, oh, it's a prostitute. Well, a lot of people then think, well, she deserved what she got, which is horrible. And it's wrong. It's immoral to think that way. Yet this kind of thinking by families who, they find out that their son or daughter ends up in a river deceased, maybe they don't want to say, though, you know what? My daughter or son had this problem, that problem. But then people are still looking for the reason, and so these people get caught up. Well, maybe it is that the Smiley Face Killer got a hold of him. And so they hide those other things that could play a factor in the person ending up in water. Maybe the person, was drinking, but it wasn't just drinking. Maybe they were on some sort of antidepressant and the drug and the alcohol didn't mix well. Possible. Maybe there were other mental things going on with that person's life that the alcohol could affect it. Remember, alcohol is a depressant. It's not a stimulant. It's a depressant. And so if you're kind of down, it's probably only going to make you feel more down. So there's a possibility as well. So that's also something Jill and I talked about. Of course, Lou, it could be suicide. Some of these could be just out and out suicides. Very possible. Going back to alcohol is a depressant. Michelle says probably, but why so many? Is it the drugs, alcohol? Michelle, we have to remember, it seems like a huge number, and I'm not saying that the number doesn't bother me, but when you compare the number to all the millions of young people who are drinking and getting home fine, the number is not that huge. I wish it was lower. But, how many young people, let's say between 18 and 23, if they go out illegally drinking or drinking legally, how many of them get home safe? 99.99% of them. But then we hear about that one once in a while that doesn't. Well, still, it doesn't matter to me one way or the other. Let's find out what's going on with that one person, and maybe we can stop somebody else who might be prone to have that happening to them somewhere down the road. That's the way I look at it. Like I said, I'm trying to learn every case that we cover on Unfound. I'm trying to learn something. It's just not broadcasting the facts. It's a huge part of what we do, but it's also about learning. It's about becoming more educated, becoming better investigators. And see, that's what I don't like about the smiley face theory, because to me, it's a theory looking for facts. I want to go out and find the facts and then bring a theory to it. Well, the only way you can do that is to look at these young people and see what was going on with them. And I think if we do that, I think that the smiley face theory would vanish quite quickly. I think it would, but nobody takes the time to do that. And that takes me to the next point. Reality usually isn't as fun as a conspiracy theory. Okay? More people, I'm a guy that believed that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. I believe that. A lot of people take interest in JFK conspiracy theories just because it's fun. Flight 800. I believe that a center fuel tank, I think there's a lot of evidence to show that that's what happened. A center fuel tank, there was a spark in there, lighted the fumes in the tank, blew it up. A lot of people believe that it was shot down by the American military, by Iran, by Israel, by this, by that, and everything. People love conspiracy theories. There are people that believe that it was the planes didn't bring down the World Trade Centers. They believe that it was a controlled demolition. I mean, there's all sorts of things. People get into this stuff because it's interesting. Just because something is interesting doesn't make it true. So, but like I said, reality usually isn't as fun or as interesting as a conspiracy theory. Well, my thing is true crime isn't supposed to be fun. That's why when I close out episodes, I don't say, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Instead, I say, I hope you found it informative. Enjoyment to me is going to Disney World. That's my world. That's why I don't say that. The big problem I have with shows this is the big problem I have with shows that have the wrong tone. The other issue is we are creative animals, and so we're always looking for these connections. And we love to have our imaginations run wild. And what is more imaginative than believing there's some secret group out there that is just cruising around looking to attack young people who are drunk and throw them in water? A lot of people want to believe that just because it's interesting. And they want to write a screenplay about it or something. So there you go. Mental health and addiction go hand in hand, Melissa says. We need to address mental health issues with young people. Melissa, totally agree. Totally agree. Linda says, my teen daughters say social media has a lot to do with problems of their generation. Linda, I also agree. Montana, Lou says, Montana has one of the highest rates of suicide. My son was one of them. I think you're right, Ed. Lou, I am very, very sorry to hear that. Very sorry to hear that. Cherie says, I have a friend that was depressed, at his alcoholic tendencies, and it was a deadly combination. Yes, Sherry. Right. Not gonna get into this right at this point, Cherie, about JFK right at this second. That would be inappropriate. Katrina says, our younger generation, such as 9 to 15-year-olds, are being bullied and killing themselves because it's so sad. Tammy says, social media, double-edged sword. Kids who are not able to process what is being thrown at them. So there you go. But this is something that I'm going to continue to work on. I continue to believe that people who continue to push the smiley face theory with no facts, except saying, well, there's a smiley face here and everything. I think that they're in it for their own fame and fortune. I think they're going to sell some books on it. They get interviewed about it. They get to go on a couple crazy shows and things like that. I believe that's the only reason they're involved in it. All right, and I will stick by that until I see facts that are different. Okay? The truth is that there are no facts to support that any of these kids were murdered. I'm not saying one of them wasn't murdered, but they surely were not all murdered. Okay, they were not. We also have to couple this with the fact that the suicide rate, at least in the United States, has skyrocketed in the last 20 years. So it shouldn't be a surprise that you end up finding more people who end up deceased in rivers. And suicide is one of the most common reasons for young people, next to car wrecks. Suicide is up there. So I believe that it falls in line with that. This is the same reason, you've heard me talk about David Paulides. He's saying that we have a bunch of serial killers running in the national parks. I don't think there are any facts to support that. But he sure does get a lot of speaking engagements because of it. And these are the types of things that I'm going to talk about should I get the chance in 2019 to talk to college students about all of this. Marcus says, we have a huge mental health problem. The public doesn't want to know how bad it actually is. Marcus, we do. I agree with you. Mike, good to see you tonight. Thanks for tuning in. Marcus, you're right. I agree with you. I agree with you. The amount of people who are on antidepressants and with the opioid problem and everything, it has skyrocketed over the last 30 years. And I know we can blame a lot of different things, from pharmaceutical companies to doctors to I realize a lot of people to blame. It's probably a combination of everything, probably. But and every day I'm very fortunate. I feel very fortunate that I have never had any mental health problems. I've had a panic attack once in a while, but I've never suffered any of those things. I just can't even begin to tell you how fortunate I feel. Never had to, and no antidepressants or anything like that. I just cannot even begin to tell you. Lou says suicide is third leading cause of death in the United States. Yeah. Right, Lou. Thank you for posting that. Mike, I see your thumbs up. Good to see you tonight. I hope you're doing well, Mike. We haven't talked in a while. But Mike, I hope you're doing really well. So let's get to this Friday's case now that we've done this over an hour. Going down to my area, Florida, the Tampa area, to cover the disappearance of Bonnie Dages, D-A-G-E-S. She was an 18-year-old from a place called Lithia, L-I-T-H-I-A, Florida, which is east of Tampa. So it's on the exact opposite side of Tampa from where I live. She disappeared on April 28th, 1993. And although her van, when she disappeared, her van also disappeared. It was found in a place called Brandon, Florida. And you can look those up on a map, and I will post a map before Friday. But the episode is called Follow the Money. Because although, what I talk about to start the episode is how money, at least the way I look at it in all the cases that have been covered on Unfound, money has not been the biggest motivator for disappearances. We can talk about relationships. We might be able to talk about drug money, but usually it's, we're talking about a couple $100s or something like that, where maybe somebody who was into drug dealing or selling drugs or buying drugs, there was money involved, and it may be a couple $100 or something like that. But somebody being caused to disappear over a huge amount of money is fairly rare. Although I will say that it seems the Mike Williams case is one like that, where his wife and her new guy, of course, we know they finally got caught within the last year, and I think she finally was found guilty within the last week. That was a disappearance that was over money, but they are rare. Relationships, drugs, jealousy, disappearance to cover up another kind of crime, lots of different reasons, but money is not one of the major reasons. Oh, you're going to bed, Penny? Okay, Penny, I'll catch you later. You can catch the end of this on YouTube. But yeah, sleep well, please. Cheryl, good to see you tonight. Cheryl. But the reason we're calling this Follow the Money, because it does seem you're going to be presented the facts. You can figure out this for yourself. But it's funny though that we're talking about money being involved in the disappearance of an 18-year-old. Bonnie had only turned 18 like a month and a half before she disappeared. But there is evidence to believe that the reason she disappeared was over a considerable amount of money. You're going to hear about how she had a boyfriend who was quite a bit older than she was, that she kept secret from most people. You're going to hear about people who found out about this money that she had and tried to rip her off. And so a lot of information that we have on this case seems to be good, but it came from someone who might have had their own reason to want to make Bonnie disappear. But she is not just missing. Her 4.5-month-old son is also missing. He went missing with her. She had given birth to his name was Jeremy in December of 1992. And then the evening that she went missing, he went missing as well. So it's a tough case. We have a mother and her very, very, young mother and her very, very young son who went missing. And you're going to be asked to decide if money or something else was the main cause of her disappearance. Bonnie Dages, the last name, you can find it's on it's on Charlie Project, it's on NamUs. There is a website or a Facebook page that I've already posted in the group that you can check out. Cherie says, I think money would be directly into relationships. Relationships number one, money number two. That's not really how I would classify it, Cherie. What I'm thinking is more a disappearance was making somebody disappear for the main reason of getting hands on their money. Now, we know there are murders that happen like that, but with disappearance it's a little different. Even as I've learned with my mother's death, is that when somebody dies and there's a body, you get the death certificate. If there is life insurance or other things, you can start working on that. With a disappearance, if you're counting on a disappearance to cause you to get life insurance, you're going to have money, you're going to be waiting a while, except in a case like Mike Williams. But I think that is an exception, a very rare circumstance. But once again, Cherie, you can hear the case, and I think you're going to see how this is a little bit different than maybe what you're thinking of. I think we'll see. Carrie says, and when the two could potentially be involved, spouse or child, could increase that chance. And Carrie says, oh my goodness, double devastating. Right. So we have an 18-year-old missing, and we have a 4.5-month-old missing. And this case is 25 years old. So Bonnie, if she's still with us, is 43, and her son would be like 25 years old now, maybe be turning 26 now. So, just not sure. Is it possible that Bonnie was murdered, and did somebody raise her son as their own, changing his name? That's also something that you're going to be asked to think about for this episode, because we have some different possibilities. Marcus, do you think there's a chance that they're still alive? We can talk about that after you listen to the episode, Marcus. Up to you to decide. I don't want to push anybody in any particular direction. So that's this Friday. Bonnie Dages, Follow the Money is the name of the episode. April 28th, 1993 is when she disappeared from Lithia, Florida. And the interview for this episode is her mother, Linda. And I also got to talk to Bonnie's father as well. And I deeply appreciate both of them helping me out on this episode, and Linda agreeing to appear on the episode. So we've been going for about an hour and 15 minutes. No wonder my voice is about giving out here. So, I have to answer one more question. Frank asked me, do you track how many unfound cases have been found since you started the podcast? If so, which ones? Frank, there are two cases that have been one has been really solved and one has been kind of solved. The one that has been really solved is recently Zoe Campos. They discovered her remains in the backyard of a house in Lubbock, Texas, and a guy that she saw on the night that she disappeared, Carlos Rodriguez, is now in custody. The other one that's been kind of solved is Laura Bible and Ashley Freeman, but they have a guy in custody. The other two guys who were involved in their disappearance are deceased, but their bodies have still not been found. So until their remains are found, then that, to me, that case is still kind of open. All right. It's not 100% shut, unlike Zoe Campos's, in my opinion. There are still a lot of questions I have about Zoe's case, but her remains are found. There's somebody in custody. With Lauren Bible and Ashley Freeman, their remains have not been found yet. So until that happens, it's always going to be considered open to me, but at least they have at least one guy in custody for that. So there's that question, Frank. I hope that answered. You did that. You like that answer. So I'm going to go. We talked about next week, YouTube. Talked about what I did for Christmas, what I got for Christmas. Talked about what you got for Christmas. Still here in Pennsylvania. Going to be working on some upcoming episodes. Can't make any guarantees because I wasn't able to work ahead before the holidays hit. We talked about Kelsey Barrett, her fiance being in custody. We talked about the article on how true crime is so much, seems like a lot more women than men are into it. And I'm going to post that article. And then we talked about the Smiley Face Killer discussion, the discussion I had with a listener, Jill, who has a background in dealing. She is a counselor who has experience dealing with addictions and things like that, and suicide. And it was a real pleasure to talk to her. And then finally, we talked about this Friday's case, Follow the Money, the disappearance of Bonnie Dages. So I'm going to go. Pleasure, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, next week, YouTube. I'm going to keep saying it. YouTube, next week. I'll send you reminders next week. Good night, everyone. Thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know you're busy. It's always busy during the holidays, so thank you for making the time. Thank you. Favorite time of the week.